text file, change that to a lower figure, change that to a lower figure. I mean, in the test menu, you can alter the solenoid drives on the fly, just so you can figure out what a good setting for that particular mechanism is. But as I say, if you do find you want to change it permanently, it's not a problem. It's fairly easy to do. Any other questions? Yep.
Are you making the TZ software available then?
Yes, it's, as I say, it's all open source, so it's free to use, distribute, modify. At the moment, at Brian's request, or not at Brian, but my request as well, is basically, as I said this at the start, we understand that these are people's pride and joys, and at the same time, I mean, I was going to bring it here last year, but I made a decision at the end that I didn't want to show anything that wasn't 100%. I'm not going to call it 100%, but the point is, I wanted to make sure that everyone's first impression was a very, very good first impression, because you only ever get one. And Brian feels the same about this as well. So when we do our final public release, which we've been talking about for 2 years now, about every 6 months we're like, oh yeah, we'll do the release in a couple of months. Yeah. So I'd say at the moment we will release it. We are looking. I mean, I'm personally looking for a few beta testers just so I can get people to run through them and play the cabinet in a different way. Because I play TZ in a very particular way, as everyone does, in their own particular way. So it's good to get other people to play it, because they'll cause other bugs with the way they play. But yes, if anyone's interested in being a play tester either in visual pinball or in a real table, there's a piece of paper at the front. Scribble your email address down it, and I'll send you an email, and we get talking about it.
How many Twilight Zones do you think are actually in private ownership?
Well, out of the 17,526 they made, I guess that no, it's about 17,000, because they made 24 Adam Summers. I don't know, probably a lot. I mean, out of that, 8,000 left, probably a generous figure, considering that.
Got in this room?
Yeah, who's got TZ in here? Just out of curiosity. That's where they all gone. That's why it took me so long to find mine.
Yeah, give me one. I need one too.
Eddie for selling me a TZ. He let go of his fingers. Took his wife on holiday. She loved him for a bit. Yeah, any other questions? Apart from I've got a TZ as well.
Or a Corvette. Who's got a Corvette? Just me? No, two. Hey! I want your name after.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I mean, that was the other reason we picked TZ, is because everyone's got it, and as I say, it's a good flagship sort of product to have. And it's the best mod you can do, and it's reversible.
You said about clearing the high scores. Presumably you have some sort of checksum to decide whether it's valid at the start.
Yeah, I can't actually remember the ins and outs of it.
So presumably the same when you put the original ROM back, it just says invalid.
Factory,
that's exactly it.
I mean, I was speaking to Dave, and he might be coming up with some ideas on how he can store the non-volatile RAM. But the ethos of the project for me was, I don't want to spend £200 on a board. I don't want to, wait for someone to turn up and ship it. If I can download this piece of code, put it on my ROM, it's the experience I had. I was looking all over the internet trying to find a project, because I thought, someone's got to hack their pinball table. I looked all over and I spotted Brian's project, and his was the only one that had full documentation and a ROM file. There you go, grab that, put it in your machine. And so I didn't need to go off and buy, fortunately I had a ROM burner, which sort of made it easier for me, but as I said, I didn't have to buy all this other expensive bits of kit just to see what it was like. As I say, part of that is, as I said, at the end of the day, if you're really that concerned, you can just buy another CPU board, and another CPU board's 90 quids, because they will keep when you unplug it, and as long as you've got the batteries, then it will keep the settings. So if you really are that bothered, buy a CPU board. If you don't want to buy a CPU board, I don't know, take a picture. I mean, if you're really that nerdy, get a referee round, get him to sign your score. I don't know. Yeah, it's no biggie. I mean, everyone's got their own high scores anyway, so it doesn't matter. Mine's 2 billion, by the way. Any other questions?
You might have covered this at the beginning, I might have missed it. Are you aware of any other projects that are either working on earlier
than Brian?
Or different makes?
I don't know any projects that started earlier than Brian's, but then again...
No, not earlier hardware.
Oh, okay.
Or different manufacturer hardware.
Yeah, let me skip back to my frames.
It basically comes from the fact of not having a WPC tape.
Yeah, I mean... bank.
I think there was a system 7 project.
Yeah,
Not that far back.
I think it's this one here, the PBOS.
Okay.
And so there are other projects. I mean, personally, if you wanted to do that, I would start looking to P-Rock, just because their interfacing ability is a lot more open, I think. And I say this PBOS one looked very, very wire wrappy. You know what wire wrap is? So yeah, it's basically, I think it was a fireball. What's a fireball? System 7? Something like that. But he basically had a fireball that he'd replaced the CPU with his own custom FPGA thing. It looked really cool, but he hadn't put any documentation on it, so therefore I didn't really join the project.
I've got one in, I've got a haunted house with the NIWAMP board in that, and that's reprogrammable in the same way.
Yeah.
There's a Java IDE on the web, you put in your new rules and...
Oh really?
Yeah, so you go online to his site, and you download a set of rules, you recode it, you send it back to his site to reprogram, and then you get binary faults you download with a serial cable.
Oh, I might have to update my presentation. That's the NW
NIWAMP. This is the CPU board for System 80 machines. I think there's a guy in France that's a similar one, but like you say with the beta testing, I bought it with the set of rules in, and they just weren't right. I was like playing, so this isn't right. So I said to him, no, you need to add this line in the code, and you're missing this.
Oh, I'll have to have a look. As long as it's
It works very well.
Yeah.
But it's a very it's kind of there's like a template for how the hardware works, and the code is, you know, launch ball, trigger this, add this to score. So the code's at a much higher level than you're writing here.
Yeah, I mean, with what we're doing, you know, say you wanted, I don't know, the clock to work. All right, you wouldn't have to go all the way down and write a driver, but you're still going to have to define a driver, say what it is. And I say at the end of the day, you've got 7 other builds available, and what I do is I'm a massive copy and paster. I just go look at the other thing and go, oh, that bit of code does what I want. Copy and paste it in, and you can spot the Stern's a mile off. I mean, someone must have spotted the fact that Stern copy and paste quite a lot of their code. Yeah, well, obviously the score code is going to remain the same, but I've spotted stuff like jets that seem eerily familiar between tables. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, you know, no point reinventing the wheel. But like I said, you're not going to be writing it from scratch, and it's all right. It's not going to be a case of, you know, that simplistic. And I think that's the direction Brian wants to go in. He wants to make sort of like a Windows GUI that people can drag around a loop and say that's a loop there, and this is a switch here. But it all comes. Have you ever used those point and click game makers? You know those ones I'm talking about? Yeah. They're alright, but you're really, really limited. So it's a trade-off between what you want, you know, how much you want to do and how easy you want it to be. And personally, I think Brian's got it right, because it's all in C, which is a very valid language to write in. It's very useful across, you know, useful skill to have, even still. And it's low level enough so it can run on a 2 MHz processor with half the RAM of the Spectrum. As I say, I'm very, very impressed with the work Brian's done. As I say, I'm actually astonished that he's managed to do it. And a lot of people said he couldn't do it, but I've got proof sitting out there that you can actually write it in C and have it work properly. Any other questions? Yep.
It's a fun answer. Are you going to upgrade the fun answer to .matrix then?
No, because I mean, as I said, that's against my ethos. I mean, if you wanted to do it, fine. It's open source. That's the whole idea. If you wanted to do whatever you wanted with the build, you can go off and do it as long as you didn't try to sell it and claim it as yours.
Keep it pure on the implement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to think, well, if I want to run FreeWPC, I've got to go off and buy a new speaker panel, which is one of the things that put me off the bot. Yeah, as I say, the P-Rock stuff is amazing, but I can't see that many people laying down the 400 notes to get a PC, an interface board, then spend, you know, a day or two installing it when you can just buy a chip. Oh look, I've got new rules. Because at the end of the day, no one looks at the screens. You can make, you know, you make it look pretty, but unless you've got decent rules and unless the table's a nice layout, then it's, you know, not really all that. So yes, you could, if you really wanted to, you could add a DMD to any of the alphanumeric machines, but personally, I wouldn't do it because it's against my ethos.
I certainly would like to see it on a System 11 game, but rather than Pinball and Funhouse, the dot matrix is there and you're missing because
there's no space to put it. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, WPC hardware is about the earliest we can run on. Because hardware before that, you do have to write an assembler because it's just not quick enough. And say stuff past that, you can actually run it on quite happily. Now you said that, it's actually quite an interesting idea, chuck a DMD on a phone. As I say, it'd be an interesting project, but as I say, what I want is people to be able to enjoy, you know, they've paid, I don't know, what's £1,000, £2,000 for a pinball table. They've had it for 6 months, and they've gone, oh, I've got lost in the zone. Oh, okay, what do I do now? And that was my, you know, my ethos of the project was basically I want people to have new challenges, new games, and I don't want them to have to go off and spend a lot of money to do it. I don't envisage my software being used in an arcade ever. I don't think there's any market for it anymore. As I say, what I'm developing is squarely aimed at home users.
I mean, beefing up T2 sounds great because T2 seems very dated now when you play T2. It was great when it came out, it was fantastic.
Oh, it was
Dated, very
it was the first DMD, wasn't it?
well, Gilligan's was.
Yeah, we don't mention Beatles.
Do you need a spell checker for the Corvette?
Probably.
No, just a bit of double vision, it's fine. No, I was banging these out.
Yeah, he's only added that recently, so.
I was writing this out, well, I wrote out a lot of the slides a couple of months ago, but I added a bit to it 2 days ago. So apologies if it's not grammatically correct. Although I did spot another spelling mistake on my scorecards that I did as well.
Just related,
Yeah.
on the coding,
Yeah.
there's some gaps between the commas.
Oh, that's just formatting.
And if you did that in your coding, would that kind of pop up?
That's a machine definition file, so that's processed by a Perl script, isn't it? Yeah, and that then basically spits out C source code and header files after that's processed.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I've just copied and pasted this. I think it just looks for the keywords. I mean, it looks for the keywords in white space, I think. Well, in fact, no, we use keywords and then we use commas to separate it out. But as I said, this is part of the build system that I don't actually know. I mean,
Yeah, if anyone wants to know about that.
98% C, and then about 1% Perl, and then about another 1% assembler for the stuff that really does need to be assembler. So if say like the routine to copy data off the ROM onto the DMD display, that's all written in assembler because it needs to be quick. So some of it is still assembler, but you don't call to it in assembler. You just have proper, some normal C function calls to it.
I just remember typing all these ZX81 lists.
It's a little like that. I mean, you can get. I mean, the machine definition. I mean, the machine definition definitely is because you'll just sit there with a manual, just going right. That's that one. That's that one, and it takes you about an hour. And the trouble is, if you're not a coder, you don't get any results from it. You're just like, right, I've written out this sheet for what? But as I say, it's helpful. It's definitely helpful. And as I say, if you want to get a machine added, then that is the first step, and that will encourage us a hell of a lot more to actually get off our asses in my one.
You can just download the whole environment, can you?
Yep. It's all open source. Even basically what you got to do is basically download GCC, which is the C compiler, and then you've got to patch it, and then you've got to download the FreeWPC sort of toolkit, and that will come with all the builds available for you. So then it's literally a case of, I mean, I've written a how-to, and it's about, for you bundle, it's about a page long. So getting yourself set up. I mean, I think Dom's got one for Windows now.
Yeah.
So getting yourself set up and just, I mean, even if you just get to the stage where you can grab code from our, because we use GitHub as our source control. I mean, if you can't be bothered ways to email you something, you can set it up yourself, so you can just grab the code and compile it for yourself. And it's, as I say, it's fairly trivial just to go into the software and say, I want it to say Dave rules or, John sucks or whatever. So as I say, it's fun to play around with it. If you're using Visual Pinball, you're not going to break anything. Any other questions?
Do you want a challenge?
Do I want a challenge?
No. I'm not saying you Twilight Zone. You know that if you talk to the guys at Williams, the hardest thing there was the thing flips on Adam's family. It was a nightmare for them.
Yeah, that was really mechanical design. That was mechanical design, though.
You've got to do it for Twilight Zone, so.
Yeah, I did start it.
You did it, didn't you? Yeah.
In fact, Greg
pulling their hair out over it.
Greg Mock said to me, "Oh, that'd be rubbish. You shouldn't do that," which instantly made me go,
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Small flipper doing the shot.
Well, I already got.
Shot.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, I've got code in there to do it.
They almost pulled their hair out at Williams trying to get that thing flipped to work.
Well, as I say, it's due to the placement of the octaves.
Yeah,
they're not standing in the same places. And plus, you've got a massive distance between where the flipper is and where the ball is. and if your table's on a different rate, then that time will change.
Good challenge, though. It'd be nice to see Twilight.
Yeah, I mean, I got big ups from Ted Estes, was it Larry? One of the two gave me big ups for watching my video where I had a little ball spinning around on the loop magnets. Because they had said it was something they tried to do and they had got working on one table, they couldn't get it to work on others. So if I got thing flips to work as well, I'd really rub their noses in it. That'd be quite good. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think we'll go do a hardware demo now. So anyone wants to carry on the chat, we were going to take the machines in here, but the door's too small, unfortunately.
Shall I plug a machine into the projector so people can just see it compiling and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever.
Does anyone want to see it actually building a ROM?
Play some pinball in a minute.
Yeah. Alright.
Right,
I have to ditch the recording.
Well, thank you very much for coming.